Monday, February, who knows, 20th? I'll guess the 20th. I don't know, I might be right, I might be wrong. I can't keep track of the days, but I know it's Monday, and I know I'm on day 10. So, things are looking up. For my extended vacation, if I can get through this week and next week. But I am on my T-minus 10 count, so that means the horizon has been clearly stated. As we await, well, we got a couple of things going on here today. Of course, the big news is Trimet loses. Yes, sir. They lose their employee labor relations hearing. They broke the law. This is the second one they've lost. And, you know, you have sympathy for Trimet. I don't. They knew what they were doing. I think they knew that they would lose too. I think it was just a public relations gambit. But it brings up other issues of ethics here, though, because there is a serious question of ethics of our managers in two respects. If the first situation, they're incompetent and they don't know what they're doing. Okay, so they don't know what they're doing, so they broke the law and they didn't realize they were breaking the law. That's incompetence, and they should be fired for that. Okay, if that's what they did, because you don't want incompetent managers running this place. Although we already know they're incompetent, but when there's an obvious instance of incompetence, then they should be immediately replaced. Well, we know that won't happen because there's no accountability for them, only us. Okay, and that's the first scenario. They're incompetent and they didn't realize that this was going to happen. But the second scenario, which is much more likely, is just as serious. Knowing that they were going to have to pay this money, they attempted to manipulate public opinion by having this ruling so that they could say, oh, it's not our fault. It's the union's fault, or it's the ERB's fault. So we need to do something about that ERB. Now in this case, this is even more sinister than incompetence, because they're intentionally breaking laws for a political purpose, which is the height of serious ethical breaches. And in that case, they not only should be... Here's Steve. That's not... Is that Steve? It looks like him. I don't think he knows it's me. In the case of intentionally trying to manipulate public opinion through the manipulation of rules and regulations, that's like prosecution type stuff. Like, okay, we need to look at a possible fraud case here because they're committing a fraud. These people are in trust of the public good. They're not supposed to be doing that. They're not supposed to be trying to manipulate public opinion by using the public's money. So the scenario number 2 is much more serious than scenario number 1. In either scenario, the management should be dismissed, which won't happen because this is government. And we all know that government is not accountable for its act. They take our tax money, they play with it like it's their toy, and there's nothing, they're not accountable for it. They just have the greatest fun with our tax money and also with their employees. I mean, Trimet has been overly over the top with their treatment of their employees, and this was just another symptom of that brutality of theirs. It's like, we can do what we want, we don't have to follow established rules or principles or laws. We do what we want because we don't have accountability for our behavior, and they don't. And this is where I come down to the microcosm of Trimet being the microcosm of what's wrong with government. They just royally screwed up, okay? This is a major loss because it's 2 now. But it doesn't matter. To them, it's just another day at work. It should matter to them that they are not, it should matter to somebody that these managers don't seem to know what they're doing. Does it matter to does anybody care? I mean, how many instances of incompetence do we have to be subject to here? Boy, the traffic's heavy. It's supposedly a vacation day today, but it doesn't look like it, by the way. Of course, it's raining, and Oregonians can't drive in the rain, so that's part of it. Today's President's Day. Anyway, yes, so that's where we stand with that. So they're going to have to pay us our cost of living increases. You know, and McFarland once again gets shown to the public that he's a brutal, unreasonable man who thinks he can make decisions that are not regulated by anybody. And now the public has to pay for that. Okay, this is all being paid for by the public's dime. So congratulations to our ATU members. Now we have another one. We have to wait to see whether we get the health money back that he's decided that he was going to charge. And seems to me pretty likely that we'll win that one too. I mean, they're breaking the law. This is about established procedures. You understand? Forget about the union versus management part of this. Look at the established procedures of law and contractual obligation. Trimet is so determined to honor every contract. They want Clackamas County to honor their contract. They had to honor their contract to the bankrupt West. But when it comes to Trimet's own behavior, the managers don't think they have to follow contracts or laws. The double standards here are just incredible. And thanks to the blogs, we see it. Because the mainstream media is not covering, they cover the laws, but they don't cover the ethical. They're not covering the detail that I'm talking about here. This is up to me. And John Hunt had a rebuttal, and it was a good one. The union did do a detailed a detailed summary statement, and let's see if any media carries it. And I know they're sending it out to the media, but will the media carry it? See, the media is complicit. This is what's called fascism, where the corporate government union works in unison for a single purpose. This is what fascism is. And you see it played out in the Trimet dispute with us right now. Because the corporate media will not cover my stuff, and I know they know it's there, and they will not cover John Hunt's actual press release. And I know he sends it to them, because it says right on it, for immediate release. He's sending this stuff out, he's sending it to all of the local media outlets. Is anybody picking it up? I don't see it anywhere. The only place I see it is Michael Anderson, who's always very good about covering stories. He'll cover all angles of the story. I don't see Joe Rose though, and he's the Oregonian. He's the big. He's got the power of the Oregonian, the main Oregonian behind him. And I don't see him putting it in and out, not yet anyway. Let's see if maybe something's going to pop up here. But that's the fight we're in. We're living in a fascist society where fascist media, along with a fascist company of ours, are teaming up and providing only one side of the story. That idiot. You know what you're doing, buddy. Our side doesn't get out. Our side doesn't get out. Well, anyway, that is story one. Now, story two is 43 driver Tony, a Vietnam vet, by the way, who saw actual action, in the field action, has been exonerated in the crash, and we'll see what TriMet does about it. Of course, you know, they'll try to pin it on him any way they can. Now, the interesting thing about this latest TriMet crash is that that bus wouldn't even have been in that location had not schedule and service planning decided that that was the safest place to put that bus. So they moved that route from one point to another point, saying that it was for safety reasons. But as we've seen here on many occasions, is that you have a bunch of bureaucrats making a bunch of safety decisions not based on real world experience. They're making their decisions based on, I don't know what they're looking at, maps or something. So they're making these decisions for us. And, you know, you cannot argue with the management. They don't accept argument. They pretend that the safety requests for safety assessments are actually important, but they're not really, because what you end up doing is you just get another management. Man, we don't think this is important, so we're not going to do anything about it, kind of thing. I mean, they'll fix some things, like some structural things. For example, you know, the light inside the bus is broken, or the stop sign. But any real structural issues, like moving a stop or changing the sequence of the light, they're not going to deal with that. So the interesting thing is that he's exonerated, and TriMet managers actually put that bus in that location, whereas it wasn't there before. So in terms of culpability on this particular accident, the TriMet management has to play a role. And that we also don't know if visibility played a part in this. It was raining that night, and I've been ranting and raving about those mirrors and those windows and how they just beat up this water line and you cannot see effectively out of the mirrors. And I imagine that must have played a role in this. I know that it did. It had to, because that's been an ongoing problem for a long time here. But they don't do anything to treat that glass to keep it from having that problem. They're not interested in doing anything about it. So I haven't heard from Tony. I suppose he should be back at work now that the police have exonerated him. And it's horrible to go through that. You know, you see the pictures of these bus drivers. You see him in the bus. Looks like that C-Tran driver. They had a picture of him sitting on the step. This is what you're living with this job. This is one of the major reasons I want out of here. For the risk you're living with, you are not getting enough money. Because you could end up in a Sandy Day situation and then your whole life is ruined. And so you have a $25 an hour job and you think that's a good deal? Oh, look, I've got a $25 an hour job, and I used to have fully paid health insurance. Not going to have that anymore, but at least I have some health insurance versus none. So this is a good job. But the reality is not that way, because you're in one of the few professions where you could actually get sued, where your life is on the line when something goes wrong. And there's not many professions where you are the one that's being looked at when there's a problem. This is all about you when something goes wrong. You're the person that's guilty first. They look at you. They immediately haul you off to the drug test, for example. This is a dangerous job, and we are not getting enough money to put up with the risk that we are putting up with.